start sharing my screen. Okay. So basically, these are our agendas today. This is what we're going to teach today. So basically, we'll understand. I spoke a little bit about the DTOs and models. We'll actually implement the models and DTOs. We'll see how. We'll see how these layers work, and then we'll understand what a service layer is. Then we'll design a few APIs using interfaces, and we'll implement them. Then we'll inject them in the controller. We'll capture the request data object. Okay. So basically, today's session and the next two sessions are going to be completely on the service layer. We'll learn everything from how to design a service layer API, how to handle errors and exceptions in the service layer, or how to throw errors from a service layer. We'll learn all of those things. Okay. We'll also learn about what framework or what library we use to convert the data from controller to model so that the service layer understands. Okay. So let's. I'll do it a little differently. I'll actually walk through an example. Okay. Imagine there's an insurance company. Okay. Now, there in an insurance company, they have many different insurances. Let's say somebody gives mobile insurance. Okay, one of their product is mobile insurance. The other product is, let's say, vehicular insurance. Okay, and the other is life insurance. Okay, let's say there's this Geekstar insurance company that basically sells 3 types of insurance. This is going to cover mobile and tablets. Okay. This is going to cover mostly cars and 2-wheelers. Okay. And this is mostly for life. Okay. That's what we're going to deal with. Okay. Now, what I'm thinking of doing is we'll take this insurance company's example, and gradually we're going to build an entire insurance end-to-end. Okay, like we're going to build an online insurance platform using SpringBoot. So starting from today's session, we're going to basically add materials to this project. Okay. For example, if today I design the APIs and the service layer, when we get into the database, we're going to talk about the database, and we'll come back to this project and we'll implement the entities in database. Because I thought giving different projects on every different session might confuse you guys. So we'll fix on one particular project, this one, Geekstar Insurance Company, and we're going to build an online insurance platform using basically the APIs for this thing. Okay? So for now, let's just say that there are 3 products of 3 types of insurance that Geekstar Insurance Company sells. Okay. Now, they have a couple of customer journey. Okay. What is a customer journey? Customer journey is basically when a customer.
Sir, your voice is low.
Voice is low. Acha.
Yeah, yes, sir.
1 second. Give me a minute. Hey, guys, how about now? Is it clear?
Yes, sir.
Okay, cool. All right. So basically, for those who joined late, uh, we're going to build a.
Sir, your voice has been too low, sir.
Yeah, sir. Sir.
Dude, what's happening, man?
Yeah, sir. Now, okay, okay.
Better?
Yeah, yes.
Hang on a second.
Yeah, repeat it later.
One second. I'll just check because this keeps going. It's not. Never mind. I'll look into this later. Because what I do is you see this thing. This is getting automatically repositioned. I'm not sure why though. I'll try to make this work. Okay. All right. So for those of you who joined late, uh, in today's session and the next two sessions that we will have, we're going to understand everything about service. Okay, basically we'll understand the service layer in a Spring Boot application, or in any case, in general, even if you're building an MVC application by some other language, we'll understand the service layer where majority of the business logic sits. Okay. So today we'll actually be talking about the DTOs and models. We already talked about this briefly before when we introduced you to controllers. But we'll talk a little more about this thing. We'll see what tool we use to basically convert DTOs to models. Then we'll learn about the service layer. We'll see how the service layer is implemented and everything. And basically, at the end of the day, we will come up with a with with basically a set of services that a controller talks to. Okay. So another thing that I've decided is, instead of taking you through different examples every time, I am focusing on this thing. Okay. I'm going to build an online insurance platform as we go. Like when we get introduced to the database part of it, we'll implement the database stuff. But from now on, every time we learn a new element, it is going to be added to this particular project. Okay. So we're going to build an insurance company. For now, what this company does is it basically sells three types of insurance: mobile insurance, vehicular insurance, and life insurance. Okay. And there are different customer journeys. For those of you who don't know what a customer journey is, it's basically when you sign up or when you visit a page, and let's say you add items to your cart, then you check out. That entire flow is called a customer flow or customer journey. Okay. So don't worry about this term. We'll just look at the registration journey. Okay. Registration journey. Okay. And this company, let's say they have come to us and they have said that, can you build an online platform for me? I'm like, okay, fine, I'll build it for you. Then I basically ask about the requirements, and they say that we're going to build a registration journey. And in the registration journey, this is how it will happen. Okay. So there are a few steps. Customer signs up. Okay. Second step would be customer adds his or her dependents, which is also known as nominee, I think, or beneficiary. No, beneficiary is the customer itself. Nominee. Okay. It's a very simple example. This is how it usually happens. Like when you're signing up with a bank or something, or when you're signing up, taking up an insurance, you fill up the form where you give your details, then you give the nominee's details, like who in your absence will collect the money, and then maybe they'll have some other things. Okay. So for now, the requirement is that a customer signs up, the customer adds his or her dependents or nominee, and as soon as the customer registers, we basically create a wallet. Let's say the insurance company creates a wallet for themselves. Okay. We create a wallet for them. And the step D would be that we add ₹100 to the wallet. Okay. So instead of teaching you what service layer is and all that stuff, I'm trying to take you through an actual journey. Okay. So there's this company, I'm going to create the registration flow for them. The registration flow basically says that when a customer comes to our site and wants to register himself, they will have to provide that information. And with that information, we will basically, sign him up, and then we'll ask him to add his or her dependents. Then we'll create a wallet for him, and then we'll add ₹100 to his wallet. Okay. That's it. That's the customer journey. Okay. We'll come back to this to the implementation part, and we'll talk about what APIs and what things we're going to use. But for now, let's just understand, let's just revisit the diagram I showed you a couple of days before, which is that a Spring application or a Spring server at the least, okay, is composed of three things, okay, three layers. This stands for controller, and the other thing is service layer, okay, and then you have database layer and ton of other things, but we're going to focus on this particular layer, okay, service layer. So if you remember this diagram, we said that it is a good practice to have each layer understand or construct its own data, okay. So for our project, we'll be using everything that ends with a DTO for capturing the request and sending the response, okay. The same thing when we're working with services will be called models, okay. So I guess you've already seen this thing. This is what we're going to be dealing with today, okay. Now let's come back to the problem, okay. First thing is, when a customer signs up, okay, the first thing we have to decide is where exactly is he going to sign up? What will be the URL for this? Can anyone tell me what the URL would be? Take a guess. It's okay if you're wrong. Guys, am I audible?
Yes, sir.
Okay. So we'll just use this, okay? So we'll basically create a sign up API, okay, where customers can come and register themselves, okay? Now, this would be our okay, this is going to be our registration API. Okay, next thing is, what is our registration journey going to look like? Customer is going to send all his details in one shot, okay? He'll make one post API call to our this particular API, right? And then once I receive the call, these are the things that I have to do, okay? So, which means that the customer in his request should supply me all the information that I need to complete all these 4 steps. I'll repeat that statement again. When a customer sends a post request to this particular URL, the customer has to supply every piece of information that I need to complete all 4 of these steps, okay? If at any point, if at any step, some data goes missing, we will not proceed further. We'll immediately throw an exception and we'll come out of this journey, okay? This is the expected behavior, okay? So let's see. How are we going to do this thing? So a customer will basically have these following things, okay? We'll go with the bare minimum. Customer will have a name, okay? Customer will have a date of birth, okay? Could be anything. And then obviously gender. And what else can we have? So these are the pieces of information we'll have with the about the customer. Then customer would have to send its nominees, okay? So this would be nominee, okay? What the nominee would have is nominee's name, okay? Nominee's, again, date of birth. I'm basically collecting what information I need to complete all these steps, okay? Then we'll need nominee's gender, okay? Then we'll need the relationship with the customer. It could be parent, sibling. It could be spouse or child, okay? So if it's parent and the gender is M, you know that it's father, okay? And what else? Obviously, the customer, I mean, this would need the customer ID. I would need to know exactly who the customer is linked with. But anyways, for now, we'll just collect this information. And another important thing I would need is what policy the customer is signing up for. So let's say this has the policy ID, this has the insurance ID of 123. This has the insurance ID of 456. And this has the insurance ID of 789. Okay, so if a customer wants to register on my platform and wants to basically purchase an insurance, these are the things they have to give. They have to give details about themselves. They have to give the details about their nominees, and they have to tell us what insurance they are subscribing for. Okay, any questions so far? Any confusion? This is very basic stuff. Okay, so let's talk about, before we get into the service layer and discuss about this, let's talk about how the request is going to look. Okay, so the request is going to look something like this.
सर
Yeah.
ये 1 2 3 4 ऊपर जो वैल्यूज नहीं है
हाँ, ये रैंडम वैल्यू है, रैंडम वैल्यू है, मतलब मैंने रैंडमली असाइन किया।
मतलब कोई यूज होगा या ऐसा कुछ?
हाँ हाँ, मान लो कंपनी ने ऑलरेडी बना के रखे है इंश्योरेंस अपने सिस्टम में, एंड रैंडमली एक आईडी जनरेट कर चुका है। तो जब तुम एज अ कस्टमर साइन अप कर रहे हो, तो तुमको मेरे बैकएंड को बताना पड़ेगा कि कौन सा इंश्योरेंस तुम ले रहे हो, तो उसके लिए ये आइडेंटिफायर है। ठीक है, ये रैंडम नंबर है।
रैंडम तो समझ गया था, बस यूज किस लेवल हो रहा था ये पूछना था।
हाँ हाँ, तो बेसिकली देखो, यहाँ पे हम लोग रजिस्ट्रेशन कर रहे हैं, तो रजिस्ट्रेशन के लिए हम लोग का रिक्वायरमेंट है कि जब हम एक कस्टमर को रजिस्टर करवाएंगे, उसका तो एक मतलब उसका तो एंट्री बनाएंगे डेटाबेस पे, उसके साथ साथ उसका नॉमिनीज को भी ऐड करेंगे, उसके साथ साथ हम लोग उसके लिए एक वॉलेट क्रिएट करेंगे, और उस वॉलेट में हम लोग एज अ गिफ्ट 100 रुपीज डाल देंगे। ये बहुत कॉमन चीज है, जब तुम फोन पे के साथ या फिर किसी भी ऐप के साथ साइन अप करते हो, दे गिव यू सम मनी विद इट। ठीक है, तो विल जस्ट try to make it in that way. Okay, so these are the 3 pieces of information I need. So how exactly is the request going to look like? The request would look like this. Okay, you would have the customer name. Okay, you would then have the customer date of birth. You would have the customer gender. Okay, then you would have the insurance ID, which is this 1 2 3 that I wrote here, and then you would have something like nominee, okay, which will be a nested JSON. This will be the name, okay, then you would have the date of birth, then you would have gender, and then you would have relationship. Okay, this is our use case. Let's see how we build things. Okay, now basically if we think about, if you remember the statement I've been making since I started the class, that there is something called single responsibility. Okay, every class or every method should do exactly one thing and nothing more than that. Okay, so if we think in that way, you can see that some guy should be responsible for taking care of every operation relating to the customer. Okay, whether it's to create a customer or delete a customer or something, this component should only handle all the customer related requests. Okay, then there should be another component which should only handle customer dependent related stuff. Okay, then there should be one component which should handle every query or everything about wallet. Okay, this is how you identify or separate concerns. Okay, you will essentially create one component in Spring Boot which is going to handle anything that is related to customer, whether it's signing up the customer, deleting the customer, reading the customer, updating the customer, all that stuff. This is, there would be some, let's say, let's call it customer service. Okay, this customer service is going to deal with everything relating to a customer. Okay, then there is customer dependence or nominees. Okay, so there will be this another service called nominee service, which is going to deal only with the nominees. Okay, everything that has to do with customer nominees, this nominee service will deal with that. Then for both creating the wallet and adding money to the wallet, we will have something called wallet service. Okay. Any questions here? Anybody wants me to explain what I just did here? Okay, cool. So let's just start with the service. So before I start writing service classes, I would have to basically write something called models. Okay, because models are in which the data will be transferred from one service to another service. Okay, so let's go ahead. Let's go to Spring Initializer. Okay, Java Maven 2.6. We'll say in dot geekster dot spring tutorial. This is again just the group. The artifact would be geekster insurance. Okay, name could be this, simple online insurance application. Okay, and that's about it. We'll pick the Java 8 version. Okay, now let's take a look at the dependencies here. We'll need Lombok for sure. Okay, so Lombok. Then we need Spring Web. Then we'll basically need Hibernate for validations, a Hibernate validation library. And do we need anything else? We don't need JPA or anything else. So we'll just go with these things. So these three dependencies. Okay. Yep. Generate this. So, okay. Cool. Where was I? Workspace. March. Okay. Move from downloads. Geekster Insurance Company to this part. Unzip everything that ends with zip. Done. Okay. Remove everything that ends with zip. And yep, Geekster Insurance. That's what we want. Okay. Geekster Insurance. Just do a Maven clean install here, just to make sure that everything is downloaded.
Sir, your voice is low, sir.
Now?
Yeah, sir, now please.
Okay. Give me a second. Microphone volume level keeps there's a lot of stuff. I think I'll check this thing. This problem won't happen next time. Okay, so did this compile properly? Yeah, cool. So what I'll do is I'll open this. This is our previous project. Open. Geekster Insurance. Okay, cool. All right. Let's rename this application properties to application.yaml, because throughout the course of this, we'll use YAML. Okay. Okay. And let's just say server array. Yeah. Server. Let's run this on 5005. Okay. Cool. That's it. This is our application parent, so that's nothing fancy about that. Now, first thing we'll do is, because if we want to work with service, we have to create the building block first. what service consumes and what service gives out. Okay, service consumes basically a model and gives back a model. Okay, so we'll just work with that. First thing we'll create is a models package. Okay. Okay. Now, let's first talk about customer service. Okay. So customer service, if it needs to work with customer service, it needs a customer object, right? Or a customer class. So I'll go ahead and create this customer class. Okay. Right. Okay. So what will a customer have? A customer will have, let's say, these things that we said: private string name. Okay. Private, what did we say? Date of birth. So local, date, time. Okay, we'll say date of birth. Okay. And gender. We can make this gender as an enum. So we'll create a package. We'll call it enums. Okay. And then I'll call this enum package here. I'll call it gender. Okay. In here, I'll have 3 M, F, and O. Okay. O stands for others. So I'll say private, gender. Yeah, gender. That's it. Okay. Done. This is my customer class. And since our service layer, customer service layer, is only going to deal with customer, so this much is enough. So let's actually go ahead and build the interfaces. Okay. This is how we are going to design service APIs using interfaces. Okay. Now, remember that at the beginning of the course, I told you that you should always program to interface so that you can achieve loose coupling. This is where you actually implement that. I'll create this package called services. Okay. And here I'll just add this interface and I'll call it customer service. All right. Cool. Now let's just design the APIs first. If you want, you need to give a method for creating the customer. What else do we have now? For now, as of the requirement, we just have customer signs up. Basically, you have to create a customer, right? So let's go ahead and say create customer. Give me a second, guys. All right. So this will actually take just a customer object. Okay. Once the customer is created, it will give the created customer back. Okay. So we're here using the same model basically to consume and to produce. Okay. This is our actual model. This is what all the services are going to basically use. Okay. This method should be enough for us to design the customer service. So we'll do this. And before I implement this, let's go and create the controller package. Okay. This is where we create the API. So I'll create a package here. I'll call it controllers. Okay. And I will create I'll create a controller here called sign up controller or registration controller. Okay, done. This registration controller will have the REST controller annotation on it, and then it will have a request mapping. Okay. Or if we don't want request mapping here, because this will just have one method, so we'll leave it as that. We'll use the SLF4J for logging. Okay. Then we'll create a method here, public. Okay. We're going to use something called response entity, okay, which is basically of generic type. I'll talk about the response entity a bit later, but for now, just know that your response entity is kind of like the wrapper over your response. So if you are sending a response customer back to your client or whoever is calling the API, you would wrap it inside this response entity. This response entity gives you, I mean, it allows you to add HTTP codes and all those things. So you can either return something like customer, okay, or you could return response entity customer. Okay, so we'll be using this part, and as we start developing the APIs, we'll know why we use response entity. Okay. Okay.
Sir, hello.
Yeah.
In response entity, sir, we can pass the status A201. That's good, I think.
8201.
नहीं sorry sir, response entity में सर ये status हम लोग पास करते हैं ना 201
हाँ HTTP
रिटर्न कराते हैं वो तो रिटर्न
हाँ वही रेस्पॉन्स एंट्री में ही हम लोग वो कर सकते हैं. मतलब रेस्पॉन्स एंटिटी बेसिकली इसीलिए यूज होता है, सो यू कैन पास HTTP स्टेटस. नहीं तो तुमको अलग से अपना क्लास बनाना पड़ेगा जहां पे तुम HTTP रेस्पॉन्स डालोगे. उसके बदले में वी कैन यूज द रेस्पॉन्स एंटिटी. ठीक है, यही क्वेश्चन था ना?
yes sir.
हाँ, तो हम लोग यही यूज करेंगे. ठीक है. नाउ इफ यू सी हियर, I have already violated this. Customer is just a model. It is not supposed to leave the service layer. Okay. I mean, it is not supposed to leave the controller layer. So when the controller is sending a response back to the client or the whoever is calling the API, they should not see the customer, because this customer model is our internal model. Okay. It can have its own things. For example, I can have something called private long ID. Okay. Similarly, I can have something like private string, let's say status. Okay. I don't want, this is the DTO that we maintain internally. We don't want these two variables to go out, to leave our system, to go out to the client. For that, as we already discussed before, we're going to create DTOs. Okay. I'll create a package here. I'll call them DTOs. In many companies, you'll see this interchange. Okay, DTOs are used on service layer, models are used on the controller layer. Okay, in DTOs, we'll basically create one more package, two packages actually. One package for containing all the requests. Okay, and one package for containing all the responses. Okay, now, okay. So what is the response? When a customer is created, okay, we can add this class customer created DTO. Okay, something like this, customer created DTO, or we can just simply pass customer DTO. Okay, however you name it. This would be basically the response we're going to give, and this response will have name, date, time, date of birth. Actually, you know what? This is going to be long, so I'll make it simple. I'll go here. Where is it? I'll change this to DOB. Okay. Private. What else do we want to give? When you create the customer? Okay. By the way, yeah. Okay. Let's decide the response type. We have decided the request type, right? Let's act before we jump into designing the response. Let's see how the response is going to look. Okay. So when a customer signs up, okay, he provides the information such as name, date of birth, insurance ID, nominee ID, and all those things. So to that registration API call, what is the response he should get? Let's say we decide the response should look something like this. It should have something like a status, which would have something like success or failure. Okay. And then it could have something like a policy number. Okay, this would basically tell him that with this policy number you can identify your insurance. Okay, it could be something like PL123, something like this, random number. Okay, and yeah, that's it. These are the only two things that we're going to send back. Okay, one important thing to note here is this is a registration call. Okay, so far whatever API designs we have done, we have always done on the basis of a single resource. We have customer, so let's create a /customer API. We have customer dependence, so let's create a /customer, and then you could individually create a customer, you could individually create a customer dependent. Okay, this is not how things work in the real life application. Okay, in real life application they would give you a journey, and based on the journey you have to decide what your API is going to look like. Okay, so in our case, you see a call to this sign up API is going to basically create a customer, create a customer's nominee, create the wallet for the customer, and add 100 rupees to the wallet. Okay, so I don't really need to have /customer /nominee, all those things like this. Okay, at least for creation part, I don't need those APIs. Okay, for example, I am not going to have something like customers. Okay, I mean, I'm not going to allow a post call on this because according to this registration journey, I don't need that. Okay, that is being done by the service layer itself. If you have any confusion, let me know, I'll explain again. Okay, cool. All right, so this is how the response is going to look. Okay, so for that particular API, I'm not going to send a customer DTO. I'll send something else, because it is not just creation of customer that's happening, it's multiple creations that are happening, and then a response is going back. So what I'll do here is I'll say, I'll call this registered DTO. Okay, registered DTO. This is the response class we're going to create. Again, data. Okay, it says status, so we'll say private. We'll create an enum called status, or let's just call it request status. This is an enum we'll create. Okay, and then we'll say private, what is the policy number? So this will be a string. We'll call it policy number. Okay, so let's go ahead and create this enum. Okay, that's it. Import this, and I'm done. Okay, now the response will contain the keyword status, and the variable name is status, so that's fine. Here the response should contain the name policy number. One second. Here the name should be policy number, but here it's policy number in camel case. So I told you guys about the JSON property. Okay, here you're going to say value as policy number. Okay, now if you see here, I have no JSON property here. Okay, can you guys tell me why I don't have any JSON property here? The reason why I don't have any JSON property set on this is because this customer class is never going to be exposed to our client. So whatever JSON property you need to set, they have to be on your response object or the request object. Okay, in my case, registration DTO is the request response object, so I decided to put the JSON property here. Okay, done. So in our registration controller, instead of customer, we'll say registered DTO. Okay, that's it. And then this will be a method called register. Okay, now what is the request it's going to accept? So now let's go ahead and create a request in this package. Okay, I'll call it registration request. Okay, data. Now, if you look here, it has name, date of birth, gender, insurance ID, and nominee details. Okay, so I'll say private string. Okay, private gender. Okay, and then you have your nominee details. Okay, private nominee DTO nominee. Okay, we don't have the nominee DTO, so what I'll do is I'll go ahead and create a nominee DTO here. Okay, nominee DTO. Okay, this will have the same thing. It will have the same string name, private local date time DTO, sorry, date of birth, private gender, and then there's the relationship, right? So relationship, this is again an enum that I have to create. Relationship. Okay, so let's go ahead and create this relationship enum here. Enum relationship. Okay, what are the values here? Parent, sibling, child, and spouse. Okay, these are the relationships. Done. That's our nominee DTO. Import class, do our data on it. Okay, done. And then you have this thing sorted. Okay, that's your registration request. So in my controller, I'll say final registration request, and what I'll do is I'll do a request body. Okay, but how do we sanitize the data? How do we know that someone is not sending a garbage? Okay, so I'll basically put the validation annotations here. Okay, so first thing is name field cannot be null. So I'll say not null. Okay, I'll attach a message here saying name cannot be null. Okay, similarly, I'll attach not empty. Not empty, I showed you that it could be the blank string. We don't want that. So I'll say message name cannot be empty. Okay, not blank. Okay, as in this is the blank, this thing. So I'm going to say message sorted. Now date of birth, I think we have some Hibernate date validator. I think you have some annotation here, creation timestamp, temporal. Acha, Hibernate creation time on update timestamp, JPA pre-persist, that's a different thing. How do we validate data in future reference to another date? Future or present? Future or present. Can this apply cross-field validation with Validator? Down and write yourself validated. This should get you started. Okay. Seems like there is. Is there any validation? Date validation, Hibernate validator, date validation, Hibernate validator. Okay. Checking if a string is a validator. No, nope, not that. Jakarta bean validation, date validation with Hibernate. How do we do this? Oh my God, this is some XML code. Min max. Nope. Never mind, man. I won't spend time on this thing. There is probably some annotation which does it, but for now, I'll just do it manually. Okay. Gender, we're saying that it cannot be null. So we'll do this. Okay. And okay, now nominee is a nested object, right? So I showed you how the nested object validations can be done. Again, so whatever was applied there can be applied here as well. So I'll just copy paste all of these things. Gender. I'll copy paste all of that here. Date of birth, again, will validate manually. Gender, we can copy from here. Okay, but how do I know which name is this? So I'll say nominee name. Okay. Nominee name. Nominee name. Okay. Then here we'll say nominee gender. Done. And obviously relationship cannot be blank. So go ahead. Actually, none of these things can be null. So we'll put a validation here saying date cannot be null. Nominee DOB cannot be null. Similarly here, nominee relationship cannot be null. Okay. We can do the same thing here. DOB cannot be null. Okay, now that is done. So I'll just add this valid annotation here. Valid annotation right here. Okay, this is my registration request. And I'll basically put a validated annotation right before this. Okay. Cool. That's it. So the first thing I would do is log it. Received registration request. Okay. I'll pass the registration request here. Now, there is a there is a component which basically which will create the customer, then it will create the nominee, then it will create the wallet, right? So there are three things that are going to happen here. If you look at this request body, this much part is the customer's information. Okay. This much part is the customer's information. Achha, I missed out one more thing. Private string policy ID. Okay. Okay. All right. So there are three things that are going to happen here. Extract customer information from request and pass it to customer service. Okay. Next thing is extract customer nominee info from request and pass it to customer nominee service. Extract create wallet and add 100 rupees to it. Okay. Okay. Let's take a 5 minutes break and we'll go through all these three steps. Okay. Okay, I guess everyone's here. All right, so let's go back to this. Okay, our registration request basically contains all the information. I have received my registration request at this controller. Okay, I have forgotten to add this get mapping. No, sorry, not get mapping. My bad. Post mapping. Okay, because it's a post request for this. And the URL would be sign up. Sign up. Okay, cool. All right. So somebody would send a registration request. I have all the things I need, but I have to basically extract the customer information from here, extract the customer nominee information from here, and then create a wallet and then add 100 rupees to the wallet. Okay. So if you see here, let me add a dependency of customer service first. Okay. I'll say auto wired. Okay. So now that this customer service is available to me, I can always go ahead and create a customer. But if you look here, customer cannot take a registration request, customer create customer. It only takes a customer object, which means there has to be somebody who can work in the middle to basically extract these information into something that customer needs. Okay, into something that service layer understands. Now, if you go back to the design I had, we have right now just received the DTO. Okay, we have to convert it to a model. There has to be someone in between who does that job for us. For that, we use something called object mapper. Okay, object mapper is a pretty cool library. It's built by Jackson. Basically, there's a framework called Jackson framework, and they basically allow the conversion between two different classes. If you look here, the registration request is a different class, and then customer is a different class. Okay, the mapping, the conversion between this and that is done by object mapper. Okay, so let's see how we can use object mapper here. So I can say private final object mapper. Okay, object mapper equals to new object mapper. This will create exactly one object mapper per registration controller. If you create one more registration controller, then this another object mapper will be created. Okay, the reason why I'm making it final is because I don't want anyone else or anywhere in the code for the object mapper to be reinitialized. Okay, so that's it. And what I'm going to do here is so this part is actually, this is in two parts. Okay, the first part is convert to customer model, and the second part is call customer service. All right, that's it. How do we do the conversion here? Let's not make it final. Let's just make it okay. Customer, no, not customer service. Sorry. Object mapper dot convert value. Okay, there's this method called convert value. If you look at the convert value signature, it says object from value, and then there are two things: class, type reference, and Java type. Okay, we'll go with the class here because we have a concrete class to which we want this to be converted, right? So we'll say what is the from value here? The from value is registration request. Okay, and the class to which we want to convert is basically customer dot class. Okay, if you look at the method signature here, you will see that this is actually full of generics. Okay, you can see that this is completely full of generics. It takes an object value from class, but what it sends back is it's of T type. T type is decided by the class you pass here. Okay, You've all gone through generic, so this should be easy for you to understand. Okay. It then calls a conversion method. Whatever value it gets, it basically casts it to that particular class which you send here, and then returns it back. Okay. This is basically how an object mapper converts it. You can go and read about it or dig deeper into the code. But just know that we call this convert value method here, and we pass the from value. The source here is a registration request. Destination here is the customer.class. Okay. And for now, what we'll do is we'll actually return a response entity, okay, of OK. This OK here, if you see, this OK actually sends an HTTP status OK. If you go here, that HTTP status is 200. Okay. So we'll just say HTTP status OK. And in here, we'll just, it says that we need a registered DTO body. Okay. I'll just say new array, yeah. New registered DTO. It'll just be a blank registered DTO. Okay. For now, it'll just convert. What I want to do is I want to see what the conversion looks like. Okay. Converted to customer model. Okay. So I'm printing the registration request here, and then I'm basically converting this registration request to customer request. Okay. This request will fail, but let's go ahead and give it a try, and I'll explain why it's going to fail. Okay. Let's say ambient clean and stuff. No, never mind. I will do this Spring Boot run. I don't want any tests. Acha, we have a failure. Yeah, okay. It basically says that there's a dependency auto-wide, but you haven't actually implemented the customer service. So what I'll do here is I'll go to my service class, and here I will create a package. I'll call it IMPLs. Basically, this will be having all the implementations. I'll go ahead and I'll say default customer service implements customer service. Okay. Obviously, this will then require me to implement all the methods. So go ahead and do that. Can you guys tell me what the annotation here would be? Folks? Hello? Yes. Because it's a service class, and this is what contains the business logic. Okay. SLF4J. All right. For now, let's just return a null value. We don't want much. Okay. Let me check if I missed something here. No, I didn't miss anything. Okay. So now this should not be a problem. If I go back to my controller here, controller already has the dependency. Okay. Cool. My Spring application is running on what? Port 8080. How come? I missed out something here. This is application.yaml. No, it's YML. Application.yaml. Okay, what did I miss here? Server port 5005. Now let's run this. So this is running on 505. Okay. Okay. Now, what is our API path? Our API path here is sign up. Okay. So let's open my Postman. It'll be a post request to localhost 5005 sign up. Okay, this is my API. Body is going to be of raw JSON type. Okay, now let's go ahead and fill the details here. What is it that we want? Name. Name is, okay, there's some random name. If it's difficult for you to see, can we increase the font? Array, what is this? You can go to the app. Give me a second, guys. Settings. Font size. Okay. The next thing, what is this? Date of birth. So we'll call it DOB. Or did we call it something else? Let's take a look at the registration request part. DOB. And then in the DOB, we'll say, let's say 24031997. Okay. We have gender. Value should be M. Insurance ID. One teeny tiny thing I missed out here is sample insurance 123. Okay. Or what is that thing? It's 123 that we said, right? So let's just call it 123. Okay. Insurance ID 123. One mistake I did here is this is actually going to be insurance ID. Insurance ID. But this needs to have a JSON property. Why is it JSON property? Because internally I'm calling it insurance ID in camel case, but the API expects this thing, insurance ID. Okay, so I'll copy this. I'll come to JSON property and I'll say that. Okay, so whenever there is a value of insurance ID, it will be injected into this insurance ID. Okay, insurance ID is done. Then comes nominee. Okay, nominee also has name. And then what else do we have? We have date of birth. Dad was born like in 1965 or something. And we have the gender. And then we have relationship, which is going to be parent. Okay, if this is too small for you to see, this is how it looks. Okay, this is our request body. Okay, now these are my logs. I'll go ahead and hit this, and boom, we have a bad request. Okay, why is that a bad request? Let's see what we missed. We said cannot deserialize value of type local date from string this thing, fail to deserialize local date. Okay, so what is it basically saying? It's basically saying that I'm not able to convert this date that you're passing me as a string into local date type. Okay, cannot deserialize the value of this. So there's a way to fix this. Instead of this, let's go with this. I think that should take care of this. Let me give it a try with this one. Could not be parsed to index. Again, mad request could not be parsed. Okay. Let's see why this happens. SpringBoot cannot deserialize.
Sir.
Yeah.
In an array error, उसमें जो error आ रहा है उसमें double की जगह single commas का use हो रहा है या फिर
ये
या maybe that
कहाँ पे
इस
इधर?
डेट में या ये भी
हाँ
डेट में
तो
सिंगल
तुम कैसे दोगे, ऐसे दोगे?
सिंगल
ये तो वैलिड है ही नहीं ना, क्योंकि सिंगल में तुम्हारा
हाँ
कैरेक्टर लेता है। तो इसमें ऐसा बेसिकली ऐसा नहीं है यार, देयर इज अ डिफरेंट रीजन फॉर इट। ठीक है, मैं बता रहा हूँ अभी, जाओ। अरे ठीक है, बेसिकली ये पार्ट्स कर नहीं पा रहा है, ठीक है, क्योंकि इसका जो फॉर्मेट है वो फॉर्मेट में हमने भेजा नहीं है। तो देयर इज अ स्पेसिफिक फॉर्मेट, एक बार बस पता लगा लेते हो कौन सा फॉर्मेट है स्प्रिंग बूट। अरे ऑब्जेक्ट मैपर नहीं
सर
है।
डीडीएम
हाँ, एक ऐसा कुछ फॉर्मेट है, MM DD YY ऐसा कुछ एक फॉर्मेट है।
सर वाई एम
हाँ करेक्ट, ऐसा ही होगा कुछ, तो मतलब ऐसे होगा YY MM मतलब 03 24। देखने दो, दिस माइट एक्चुअली वर्क। ठीक है, is this going to work? Nope, still problem because हाँ, because ये थोड़ा लोकल डेट टाइम अगर हम लोग यूज करें तो उसमें थोड़ा प्रॉब्लम होगा, कन्वर्ट कर नहीं पाएगा। तो स्प्रिंग बूट cannot deserialize local date time. That is a Jackson mapper. Private local date time formatter. अच्छा हाँ, column start date, private JSON format pattern, date time format. This is I think what we need. Process ठीक है, ISO local date time format YYMM. हाँ ठीक है, okay fine, we understood this thing. ठीक है, देखते हैं यहाँ पे क्या हो रहा है। Let's go back here to our registration request. This is my date of birth, local date time. Okay, let's see what's happening here. Date time format, import class, date time formatter. ठीक है, JSON formatter. ये क्या हो रहा है? Attribute value must be a constant. हाँ ठीक है। Date time formatter of pattern. It has no effect at all as the JSON Jackson is doing. How do you send the JSON format? Local date time. एक second. Okay, local date time does not accept 24 as valid string. It's some additional information. Don't actually care what type of data you can make temporal access or date time or parse based. Set date. JSON deserialize as कुछ एक annotation है, एक second. Let's see. JSON deserialize as क्या बोल रहे हैं यहाँ पे? What is this? Local date time dot class अच्छा एक मिनट, what is the valid format for this? What is the valid format that local date time understands? YYMMDD HHMM. तो हमने क्या किया यहाँ पे? YYMMDD, ठीक है। Maybe this is the reason. Okay, did it start? Yes, it started. Cannot deserialize the value of local date time string. Fail to deserialize local date time parse exception. Okay, you know what I'll do? Let's not waste time on this. We'll actually go ahead and change this to string. Okay, and then we'll see how this thing can work. Registration request. I'll take a look at this thing later, how to fix this thing. So registration request, date of birth will come as this, as a string. We don't need this. Nominee details, the same thing. This will come as a date of birth, DOB. Okay. For now, let's just imagine that this is coming as a string. We'll see in the next session how to fix this thing. Okay. I don't want to waste time here just debugging this. Cool. Let's go back to this. Let's run this again. This time it'll work anyways. It'll still fail because of one certain thing. But yeah, it won't send a bad request. It'll send an internal server error as expected. Okay. And there's a huge exception error. Okay. Why did that happen? Okay. You can see that we have received our request here as this. Okay. But then it says that first of all, local date time is not supported by default. Add module faster jacks, this thing. So they're basically saying that add this to your module. There is a way to handle this thing. And then the other thing is unknown. Okay. So there are basically two things that are happening here. Let's go one by one. When you receive this registration request, right? This registration request starts basically converting the object mapper starts converting the registration request into customer. If you look at the customer class here and compare side by side, okay, registration request, okay. First thing you have here is ID. So when the object mapper is converting it to this registration request to a customer, it says, okay, hang on, there's this ID. I don't know what the ID would be. This is an unknown field for me because this field is not present here. So I'm going to stop converting altogether. I'll throw an exception. That's the first thing that happens. When it comes here, there's a status here, which is not present here. It throws an immediate error saying, I don't know what to do with this. That's why you get this unknown stuff. Okay. Similarly, here, there's something called nominee DTO and insurance ID, which are not present here. So at the time of converting, it says that I have some field here which are not present here, some field here which are not present here. I am not going to be able to convert this thing. Okay. So in order to fix this, you basically have to add a property to your object mapper. This property will say that whatever you find a match between, convert them, leave the rest as blank. Okay. Let me repeat that again. There is a property which will basically look for matching of this thing, like name here matches this name. So this will be injected into this. DOB here matches DOB. It will be injected into this. Okay. Actually, let's change this to string as well, because then it won't fail. Gender here matches gender. So it will be injecting gender into this. Insurance ID, if it finds that there is an insurance ID and there is no insurance ID here, it will not do anything. It will ignore it and move on to the next field. Next field has nominee DTO. There is no nominee DTO here. So it will ignore and it will give you only these fields. Okay. However, there's an ID field here, which is not present in this case. It will by default assign the 0 value to it because it's of long type. So it will by default assign the 0 value. So the way object mapper works by default is it will fail if it finds some unknown property. Okay. On either of the sides, it is immediately going to fail. So to handle that, we go to our registration controller. Okay. Let me minimize this. Okay. Now, this is where the object mapper is created. This is where the mapper is getting used. If you remember, I told you that every Spring Bean goes through a life cycle. So there is a life cycle. There is a phase in that life cycle, which is just before the use and right after the creation. Can anyone tell me what it is? Guys, we've been through this. There is a phase in Spring Bean where your your Spring Bean has just been created, but it is not yet ready to be used. It is just before the use phase. Okay. So in case you have forgotten, let me jog your memory a bit. Forget about this part. the dependencies are being created. When the bean gets instantiated, when this registration controller bean gets instantiated, this also gets created, right? And then the customer service gets injected. Then we come directly to utility method, as in this gets ready to be used. We need to set the object mapper right before it gets used. So before we come to this phase, we need to set the object mapper. So we have to have our init method, which is also some method private void init. This is some method which it annotated with post construct. Okay, I hope you guys remember this. So by the time I am here in this post init method, this guy has already been created, initialized. That means it already has a memory address in the memory. Okay, what I'm going to do here is I'm going to say object mapper dot configure. Okay, you can see that configure has something, feature and boolean. Okay, so for every feature there's a yes or no. Do you want this feature? Yes. Do you not want this feature? No. So if you want the feature, the value would be true. If you don't want the feature, the value would be false. Okay, for our feature there's something called fail on unknown properties. You can see deserialization feature dot fail on unknown properties. This by default is set to false, which means you want your object mapper to fail on unknown properties. Okay, what we will do is we will set it to false. The moment we set this to false, all those unknown property wala part will be gone. Okay, and there was a local date issue. The local date issue won't be there, as we have already removed that local date thing to string for now. In the next session we'll see how to handle that, but for now this will ensure that if it finds some property that it cannot map to the destination class, it won't fail. Okay, so go ahead and this is on. If you now send the request, you can see status and policy number. The request is different. It's coming null because I am sending a blank registered DTO, which is fine. But if you look at the logs here, it says received registration request up to this part. Okay, and then converted to customer model. Customer ID is null because it could not find an ID in the source, so it injected the ID with a null value. But everything else, name is John Doe here, date of birth is this here, gender is M here, status is null here. Again, customer, the request didn't have any status, so this destination class got initialized with a null value or whatever default value is this. Is there any confusion? Does someone want me to explain the whole thing again? I will do it. If you are confused about any of these things, whatever we've done so far, let me know. I'll do it. I'll repeat it again. Okay, cool. So with this, we completed this part, okay, which is convert to customer model. Now that we have our customer model, our service understands customer and it also returns a customer, right? So I can simply say customer service dot create customer, pass this customer object to it, and that's it. Capture the same customer in here, and you're pretty much done. Okay, so this part here, okay, this part basically does this. If we go back to our requirement, customer signs up, okay, this part does that. Okay, next part is customer adds his or her dependents. You can see that I already have nominee details here, nominee DTO, okay, but I don't have a service yet for the nominees. So what I'll do is I'll go ahead and create another service called nominee, but before that I have to create the models. Okay, so here I'll create another class called models. Oh, sorry, my bad. Nominee. Okay, what will the nominee have here? Nominee will have the name, name, and then it'll have date of birth, which I'll keep string for now. Okay, and then we have our gender, Okay, then we have our relationship type. Relationship, okay, relationship. But internally, you know that every nominee is tied to one customer, right? So there has to be something called private long customer ID. Okay, this is just the model, as in this is not the controller layer part. This is not a controller layer. I mean, when you get a when you get the, how do I say it, when you get the request to create the nominee, the client will not be passing the customer ID with it. Okay, customer ID you will get after the customer has been created. Okay, this is how my model is going to look like. I hope you guys are understanding why I'm having certain fields here and why I'm not having certain fields there. Okay, the controller layer part, basically the DTOs here, DTOs are meant to be like this. Okay, they are only going to have those many fields which the client passes to you on the API call. Your service layer deals with a completely different set of objects. Your service layer deals with models which are not dependent on these things completely. As you can see, nominee here contains customer ID, which the nominee DTO does not have. If you look at the nominee DTO here, okay, nominee DTO does not have the customer ID here, which means we don't expect the customer to send the customer because the customer hasn't even signed up, right? So he wouldn't know his own ID. So that's the DTO part. But because this is going to be used internally by all other services, it would have a completely different model, which includes customer ID. Okay. And if you look at this thing, there is also something called ID here. Okay. This is the ID in the customer model, which is going to be injected in your nominee model. Okay. So we've created the model for our nominee service. Okay. What did we decide to do here? We said that now we are going to create a nominee service, which is going to complete this part. Okay. So model is ready. Let's go ahead and create the service here. In the service, we'll say nominee service. Okay. And this will have a single method. It will actually take a nominee as a request and it will send a nominee back. So create nominee. Okay. And you could send, so you could send two things here. Okay. Long customer ID, nominee. Okay, done. Cool. Let's go ahead and implement this. Default nominee service implements nominee service SLF4J. Okay. For now, let's just leave it this way. Okay. So that's our nominee service. Let's go back to our controller here. The controller did the first step, okay, which is extracting the customer and creating the customer. The next step is extracting the customer nominee information from the request and pass it to customer nominee service. So for this, the first thing I need is a dependency of nominee service. So I need to inject the nominee service dependency into my controller. Okay, I've done that. Now, next thing is to extract the nominee information. So I'll say final nominee DTO, registration request dot get nominee. Okay, you get this. Now, this is what you have to convert to nominee model. Okay, for that you'll say final, sorry, not final, nominee. You can see that I'm using two different objects here, DTO and nominee. Okay, here I'm going to say object mapper dot convert value. Okay, what is my source here? Source here is nominee DTO. Okay, destination here is nominee class. Okay, done. Now, if you see here, if you compare these two classes side by side, okay, and let's say okay, if you compare these two classes side by side, this is the request, the controller layer class, this is the service layer class. Okay, this guy will pass you a name which will be mapped to this. So when the converter is converting, it will basically map name to name, so that value will be injected. DOB will be injected. Gender will be injected. Relationship will be injected. If, however, you change the name here to date of birth, okay, then you would have to customize your object mapper method to say that this date DOB here actually maps to date of birth here. Okay, we won't do that. We'll just leave it the way it is. Okay, so you have a date of birth here. This will be mapped. Customer ID, because the source doesn't have any value for this, this will be basically 0L. This will be initialized with 0L. Okay, cool. Let's go back to our this thing, and we can check the, we can actually log it here. Okay, and then put a log here. Okay. For now, what I'll do is inside this method, in the implementing part, I'll just return the same customer itself. I'll say customer dot set ID, let's say 1L. Okay, this will basically do, and I'll just return the same thing. This is going to just simulate the service layer wala part, but for now let's just know that this is what I'm doing. And in the nominee service, I'll do the same thing. I'll return the same nominee, set customer ID, okay. It's always good to make these things as final because you're not going to reinitialize them. Okay, so that's it. It'll create this nominee, and I can basically go ahead and say that this is the created nominee. Created nominee. Okay, let's make this final because I won't be reinitializing this anywhere. Does this work? Yeah, cool. So this creates, this completes the second part. The next part is basically sorry, where is it? Next part is create the wallet and add 100 rupees to the wallet. Okay, now here we'll have to create a wallet service with two methods. Okay, creating a wallet and adding this thing. So what is exactly an wallet structure is going to look? Give me a second. Okay, so typically a wallet will look like this. Okay, wallet structure will have the following structure. It will have a wallet ID which is going to be generated by the system. Okay, it will then have the customer ID. Okay, because you would then be able to tell that this wallet is linked to this, and something called balance. Okay, which will basically have the amount. Okay, these are the three things. So again, we are creating the service, so we'll create a model for this first. Let's go back here. Where is it? Let's create a model called wallet. Okay, let's annotate this with data, private long wallet ID, private long customer ID, private, I'm going to use big decimal. Big decimal contains numbers like, 123.000, all this stuff. Okay, that's why I'm using big decimal. Okay, big decimal balance. Okay, cool. That's my wallet model. Now, how does my service look like? We'll go here and we'll say interface wallet service. Okay. Now, the wallet service wants to create a wallet, right? So if you look at it, when you're creating the wallet, when you're creating a wallet like this is going to be system generated. This is going to be the default. When you're creating the wallet for the first time, there will be no balance. Okay, in this step. So what is that one thing that I need to create my wallet? Any guess, anyone? What is that one piece of information I need to create my wallet? Hello, am I audible? Guys? Hello.
Can you repeat question again?
Question is, if this is how my wallet is going to look, wallet ID is going to be automatically system generated. Okay, so I don't have to pass this to my wallet service. Balance is going to be by default 0, because when you're creating the wallet in this phase, you're not going to add any money to it. Okay, so this also is not going to be coming from the outside. So what is that information that I need to create this wallet? I would need just the customer ID. Okay, customer ID is the only thing that my wallet service needs to create a wallet. Okay, so let's go here and let's do this. Wallet, create wallet. Okay, final long customer ID. Okay, when you, sorry, this is not going to be this. When you just call this method with the customer ID, it will automatically give you a wallet created. Then the next thing is add to wallet. Okay, so I'll say again wallet. We'll have the method called update wallet. Okay, and in here what we'll do is we'll say final long customer ID. This customer ID will identify, or if not customer ID, let's just say wallet ID. Okay, and then we'll say final big decimal amount. Okay, that's it. Yep, maybe not update wallet, let's just call it add to wallet. Okay, that's it. So the first method here is going to create a wallet by just taking the customer ID. Next time you try to add something to the wallet, you need two things. You need the wallet ID to identify which wallet it is, and you need the amount to identify how much amount you want to add into the wallet. Okay, these are the two methods I need in my wallet service interface. I'll go here and I'll just implement this class. I'll say default wallet service. Okay, implements wallet service layer SLF4J, and go ahead and implement the methods. Implement methods. Okay, what is the first thing that will do? You have a customer ID, so you will just say final wallet. Okay, new wallet dot set customer ID as this customer ID, wallet dot set wallet ID. I'm just going to hard code that wallet ID as 1123L, or just let's just call it 555L, L for long, and then wallet dot set balance big decimal of 0. This is just a this is just equal to writing 0. Okay, because I'm using big decimal, I'm using this dot 0 plus. Okay, and then once I'm done, I'm returning this thing wallet. Now, why did I not add 100 rupees in this step? The reason why I did not add 100 rupees in this step is because this guy's job is just to create a wallet. Your business requirement says that I want to create a wallet and then I want to add 100 rupees to it. Tomorrow, so the requirement may change and just say that add 500 rupees to it. So you cannot keep coming here and change the code in this method itself all the time, right? Instead, what you do is you expose your basic CRUD. This is a C and this is a U. Okay, update. Okay, so you do the basic things and controller will call in whatever order is required. Okay, that's why we have separate methods for doing exactly one thing. This here created the wallet because its job was just to create the wallet, not to add money to it. This guy's job is just to add money to the wallet. Okay, so this is actually how you separate concerns. There's a concept in software engineering called separation of concern. That's how we do it. Okay, now what will happen is you will get the wallet ID. So let's say if you had database, you would go ahead and create it from the database, but right now I'll just do this. Okay, let's say you already have the customer ID 123. Okay, now add to wallet did not require the customer ID. Okay, because add to wallet basically saying that give me the wallet ID and give me the amount you need to add and I'll do it. If I had passed the customer ID to it, then the wallet add to wallet method will go and check, hey, what is that wallet for this customer ID? Give me that and then I'll basically add to it. But finding that wallet by customer ID is not this guy's job, right? So this guy basically said that I will do only what I need to do, which is adding amount to the wallet. So give me the minimum information I need, and the minimum information is wallet ID. Okay, if you want to know the wallet ID by a customer ID, you can simply have another method called wallet. You can say get wallet by customer ID. Here you can basically pass the customer ID. So this would be the R of the CRUD. Okay, reading. This is the creation, the C of the CRUD, this is the U of the CRUD, and this is the R of the CRUD. But if you look at my method here, this create wallet, as soon as it takes this thing, it's already creating the wallet and it's giving the wallet object back to you. So you already have access to the wallet object. You can simply call this method passing this wallet ID from this object. Okay, we'll see how that happens. So we'll go to our registration controller. This is the last step. I'll say private wallet service auto wired. Okay, so first thing is creating a wallet. Okay, so I'll say final wallet. Why is it final? Because I won't create the wallet again. So I'll say wallet service dot create wallet. Okay, this needs only the customer ID, so I'll say customer dot get ID. Okay, you can see this is why I had the ID here, which is going to be used by the service layer. This creates the wallet. Then what I'll do is I'll say wallet service dot add, sorry, wallet service dot add to wallet. Here I'll pass the wallet dot get wallet ID, and then what is the amount? 100 is what we want to pass, but this won't take 100 like this. So we'll say big decimal dot value of, okay, 100. If you're confused about this phase, go read about big decimal. It's not that difficult. Okay, but that's what it's doing. It's happening in two steps. I'm first creating the wallet, and then I'm adding to the wallet, and then I'm being done with this thing. Okay, if you look at this entire flow, this registration flow here, this what we were talking about, registration journey, it, let's see if it actually did everything it was supposed to do. It was supposed to create a customer. Okay, create a customer. Okay, that part is being done by the customer service create customer method. Okay, then it says customer adds his or her dependents, which basically means create nominee. Okay, For that, we have a nominee service. This nominee service basically converted the nominee to the model wala nominee. And then, okay, I didn't call this thing. So I'll say nominee service dot create nominee. Here you pass the customer ID. So you say customer dot get ID and then the nominee DTO. Okay, nominee. So this will create the nominee for you. And you can actually use this same nominee object to capture the created nominee. So you'll say nominee equals this, basically log it, log. Okay. And then this would be the wallet here. You can just say dot log information created wallet. Okay. And that's it. You're done. So that's how we, when we have a requirement like this, we basically decide the steps. Then we decide who should do what. In this process, we had 4 steps: create a customer, create a nominee, create a wallet, then add 100 rupees to the wallet. And we basically did each step. We separated the concerns. We said anything relating to the customer is going to be handled by customer service. Anything relating to the nominee is going to be handled by the nominee service. Anything related to the wallet is going to be handled by the wallet service. So we created 3 different services here: customer service, which basically has a create customer method. It takes the customer object, returns another customer object. Okay. Your API here receives the registration request. It then converts that registration request into a customer object. Then it basically calls the service to create the customer. Once the customer is created, you move on to the next step here, where you say that get the nominee part from the registration request, extract the nominee information, convert the nominee information to something that the nominee service understands, give that nominee model to the nominee service, and the nominee service basically creates the nominee and gives it back to you. Then in the wallet service, you pass only that one single piece of information, which is the customer ID. Wallet service, you pass the customer ID, which you already have created at this phase. Then this will basically create the wallet for you. Okay. Once the wallet is created, you call another method of the wallet service to add something to the wallet. Here you're passing wallet ID instead of customer ID. And then you're adding 100 rupees to it, and you're basically returning a successful response. This is how this journey flow is done. And you can see that for this API, it had a dependency on these 3 services. Okay. If you look at this, you can see that the controller here, that this controller's job is basically three folds. There are 3 things the controller is doing. What are those 3 things? First thing the controller is doing is validate data, okay, or validate request. Okay. Second job is to basically convert to model. Okay. Third, sorry, how is my numbering? Third thing is calling the required list of services in order. Okay. Fourth, return a response. So if you see here, the business logic, which is basically this, or this creating customer nominee and all those things, business logic is not sitting in the customer controller layer. Controller is just validating the request, converting it to a model that the service can understand, and it's basically calling the services in a specific order. Okay, that you have to create a customer first, and you have to do this, you have to do that, all those things, and then it's basically returning a response. This is basically the primary job of a controller. Your business logic, the actual creation of nominee, actual creation of wallet, then adding 100 rupees to the wallet, all of this thing is actually being done in the service layer. Okay. So that's basically it. That's the difference between controller layer and service layer. And in the next couple of sessions, we'll understand more about the service layer. Let me just send this request, and then We'll see if all of this works. I'll send the same request. I'm getting this same data, but let's take a look at this thing. Received registration request, converted to customer model, created customer. Acha, I'm not printing the created customer here. Yep. Okay, let's rerun this. Okay, let's send this. You can see here, received registration request, converted to customer, created customer, customer ID is 1, name is John Doe, date of birth is this, gender is this, status is null. Don't worry about this for now. Then we created the nominee. Nominee is customer ID, all those things. I don't know why it printed twice. And then we created the wallet, okay, with the balance of 0. And then we return this response, okay. We return this response. So this is how you actually create service class. You first create the interface, then you define your methods, then you actually go ahead and implement your classes, and then you annotate them with add service layer, and then you implement your business logic in here, and then you return it to the controller. Controller, on the other hand, it first validates the data, validates the incoming request, it converts it into something which the service understands. The service takes that object and it performs its business logic. Then that business logic, I mean, so controller basically orchestrates. Controller decides how to control and in what order. So it controls the customer first, then it calls this guy, then it calls this guy, and then it returns a response. These are the 4 things that the controller does, and your business logic actually sits in these layers. Okay, all of these things. Any questions on this?
Hello.
Yes.
Sir, actually I want to explain sir ये object mappers.
अच्छा, ऑब्जेक्ट
तो
मैपर
सर-
वाला पार्ट. हाँ,
Yes sir.
देखो
तो
ऑब्जेक्ट मैपर में बेसिकली क्या हो रहा है. ऑब्जेक्ट मैपर एक तुम यहाँ पे चीज समझो, ठीक है. तुम्हारा यहाँ पे कंट्रोलर लेयर पे जो रिक्वेस्ट क्लास है ना, वो काफी डिफरेंट है फ्रॉम ये वाला मॉडल वाला क्लास, ठीक है ना. तो अब तुमको एक, अगर हम लोग यहाँ पे फिर से वापस जाएंगे ना, ठीक है, कंट्रोलर तुम्हारा बस डीटीओ समझता है, ठीक है. कंट्रोलर डीटीओ समझते हैं, विच इज अ डिफरेंट क्लास ऑल टुगेदर, ठीक है. सर्विस तुम्हारा यहाँ पे मॉडल समझते हैं, ठीक है. हमने पहले डिस्कस किया था कि क्यों हम 2 डिफरेंट क्लासेस मेंटेन कर रहे हैं, क्योंकि यहाँ पे कुछ चीजें रह सकता है जो यहाँ पे नहीं रहेगा. ये बेसिकली क्लाइंट फेसिंग है, ठीक है. जो भी क्लाइंट भेजेगा यहाँ पे कैप्चर होगा, जो भी तुम क्लाइंट को भेजने चाहोगे यहाँ पे वो कैप्चर करोगे, ठीक है. ये वाला बस सर्विस लेयर, ये इंटरनल यूज के लिए है, ये ओनली सर्वर के अंदर रहेगा, ठीक है. तो अब यहाँ पे 2 डिफरेंट क्लासेस है. तो यहाँ पे जो रिक्वेस्ट आता है उसको हम लोग इसमें कैसे कन्वर्ट करेंगे, क्योंकि सर्विस को तो बस मॉडल मतलब समझ में आता है, ठीक है, एंड कंट्रोलर को बस डीटीओ समझ में आता है. तो कैसे तुम सर्विस को कॉल करोगे? तुम क्या करते हो, तुम एक बीच में कुछ एक टूल, एक लाइब्रेरी यहाँ पे इमेजिन करो जिसको तुम कॉल करते हो, जो ये लेता है, ये कंज्यूम करता है. जैसे कि आई मीन वी कैन जस्ट डू इट दिस वे, ठीक है. इसको तुम मान लो ये कन्वर्टर है, ठीक है. ये तुम्हारा डीटीओ लेता है, मॉडल मतलब ये करता है, फेंकता है, एंड वापस तुम जब इसको रिटर्न करते हो तो ये मॉडल फीड कर, मॉडल कंज्यूम करता है एंड डीटीओ प्रोड्यूस करता है, ठीक है. ये जो बीच वाला पार्ट है वो है ऑब्जेक्ट मैपर, ठीक है. अब ऑब्जेक्ट मैपर एक बेसिकली कहाँ गया, हाँ, ये ऑब्जेक्ट मैपर एक स्प्रिंग बूट का इनबिल्ट क्लास है, ठीक है. मतलब एक जैक्सन लाइब्रेरी नाम के एक लाइब्रेरी है जहाँ पे ये ऐसे छोटा मोटा यूटिलिटी क्लास है. ये बेसिकली एक यूटिलिटी क्लास है. अगर तुम ऑब्जेक्ट मैपर यूज नहीं करते तो तुमको ऐसे सेट करना पड़ता, ठीक है. मान लो तुम फाइनल कस्टमर कहाँ गया, कस्टमर मान लो CS लिखता हो, ठीक है, न्यू कस्टमर, ठीक है. तुमको मैन्युअली सेट करना पड़ेगा, cs.set dob, तुमको लिखना पड़ेगा रजिस्ट्रेशन रिक्वेस्ट डॉट गेट dob, ठीक है. फिर cs.set मान लो जेंडर, रजिस्ट्रेशन रिक्वेस्ट डॉट गेट जेंडर, ठीक है. ये तुमको मैन्युअली करना पड़ेगा. अगर तुम्हारे रिक्वेस्ट क्लास में 50 फील्ड है, ठीक है, एंड तुम्हारे जो सर्विस लेयर है उसमें जो मॉडल है वो उसमें बस 20 क्लास है, तुमको एटलीस्ट मिनिमम ऐसे 20 लाइन ऑफ कोड लिखना पड़ेगा, ठीक है. तो ये है बस, ये बस क्या कर रहे हैं, ये बस डेटा रजिस्ट्रेशन रिक्वेस्ट से उठा रहे हैं एंड कस्टमर में डंप कर रहे हैं। वो चीज करने के लिए हमारे पास ऑलरेडी एक लाइब्रेरी है ऑब्जेक्ट मैपर, ठीक है, तो इसीलिए हम लोग ऑब्जेक्ट मैपर का इस्तेमाल करते हैं। यहाँ तक समझ में आया?
यस सर।
ठीक है, अब ये क्या चीज है, ठीक है, ये मैंने क्या किया यहाँ पे, बेसिकली ऑब्जेक्ट मैपर तुम जब बनाते हो तो उसका कुछ कन्वर्जन रूल होता है कि जो सोर्स क्लास है, जो डेस्टिनेशन क्लास है, अगर उनमें से कोई फील्ड का नेमिंग मिसमैच हुआ, या फिर मान लो एक फील्ड सोर्स में है, वो फील्ड डेस्टिनेशन में मिसिंग है, तो मैं क्या करूंगा, इस चीज के लिए ऑब्जेक्ट मैपर बाय डिफॉल्ट कुछ रूल्स के साथ, और मतलब जब तुम यहाँ पे क्रिएट करते हो कुछ रूल्स बाय डिफॉल्ट अप्लाइड हो जाते हैं, ठीक है। जैसे कि हम लोगों का यहाँ पे फेल हो रहा था बिकॉज ये एक अननोन प्रॉपर्टी था, रजिस्ट्रेशन रिक्वेस्ट में आईडी नाम का कोई चीज है ही नहीं, जबकि कस्टमर में आईडी ऑलरेडी है, तो वहां पे ऑब्जेक्ट मैपर फेल कर रहा था क्योंकि उसका वो डिफॉल्ट प्रॉपर्टी था। हमने उसको क्या बोला कि ये जो फेल ऑन अननोन प्रॉपर्टी है, जो कि डीसीरियलाइजेशन फीचर में आता है क्योंकि तुम डीसीरियलाइज कर रहे हो, ठीक है, तो इस जब तुम मतलब ये जो पर्टिकुलर प्रॉपर्टी है, ये जो फीचर है, इसको तुम बंद कर दो, टर्न ऑफ कर दो। जैसे ये टर्न ऑफ हो गया, वो क्या किया, जो जो फील्ड मैच हुआ नेम के साथ वहां पे कस्टमर, देखो जो जो फील्ड मैच हुआ, जैसे कि यहाँ पे नेम और यहाँ पे नेम मैच हुआ तो वो इंजेक्ट कर दिया, यहाँ पे डीओबी, यहाँ पे डीओबी मैच हुआ तो वो इंजेक्ट कर दिया, जेंडर यहाँ पे मैच हुआ, जेंडर यहाँ पे मैच हुआ, इंजेक्ट कर दिया, इंश्योरेंस आईडी यहाँ पे है बट यहाँ पे कोई इंश्योरेंस आईडी है नहीं, तो वो इसको इग्नोर कर दिया। ये जो इग्नोर किया, ये था तुम्हारा अननोन फील्ड, ठीक है। तो उस चीज के लिए हमने यहाँ पे कॉन्फ़िगर करके रखा है कि सेट दिस प्रॉपर्टी टू फॉल्स, मतलब जब तुमको अननोन प्रॉपर्टी मिलेगा तब उसको बस इग्नोर कर दो, उसको फेल मत करो, फेल ऑन अननोन प्रॉपर्टीज डोंट डू इट, ठीक है, समझ में आया?
यस सर, नाउ इट्स क्लियर सर।
Cool. Done. Any more questions, guys? You guys are regularly updating the feedback, right? If you're not, just go ahead and give the feedback because it helps us understand how good we are doing. Okay? Cool. Anyways, thank you for joining the session. Good night.